Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
It is a Tuesday, and it is Locked In here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton here with you. You know, a conscious thought that I had for the very first time just a few minutes ago is it's probably the youngest radio station in the market. 'Cause how old are you, Grayson?
23.
23?
Yeah.
Man, you're making me feel old, and I shouldn't feel old because I'm not much older than that.
What are you, 26?
25.
25.
I got a month to 26.
Do you really?
Yes. Next month, I'm officially closer to 30 than 20, but not quite there yet. No doubt Goutman's on the other station going, I don't know who listens to those guys. I've lived more life than both of them combined. But
this does have to be the youngest show probably in a 2,500-mile radius.
2,500 miles?
I doubt there's a show in Dallas that's this young. Or I can guarantee you there isn't.
Do you mean 250?
2,500, that's what I meant to say. Just a wide, just basically saying there's not another show like us.
I'm with it. I believe it. We're here to talk about OU football and recruiting, folks. Not Major League Baseball or NBA basketball or anything of the like. That's what you guys tune in for. That's what we deliver every single day. And all of you that chime in on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439 are much appreciated. This hour of the program brought to you by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno. Family owned and operated. They pride themselves on having the best service technicians and friendly service advisors that put your needs first. And they have half-price oil changes on Saturdays. Now that's a deal worth taking advantage of because oil changes can get pricey. When was the last time you had to change your oil, Grayson?
A month ago?
How much did it run you?
50?
That's not bad.
Yeah, I got to change it.
Did you just go to Take 5 or?
Walmart.
Oh, okay. Went to Walmart.
Yeah.
Going the corporate route with your oil changes.
Dude, as long as my oil gets changed, I don't give a damn who does it. But I would like this deal though. This deal that you're talking about right now is a pretty good one.
That's right. Get tapped in with the good folks at Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno. Appreciate their sponsorship of the show. The Denver Harris saga is over. Denver Harris is off the board. Denver Harris is signed, but not to the University of Oklahoma. He signed with UNLV. I hate covering the portal, man. I'm so glad this winter cycle is in effect over. Because I'll be honest with you, Grayson, the word I was getting last night was, Denver Harris is going to be a Sooner. There's some things that OU has to work through before it gets finalized, but they're taking him. And as I expressed yesterday on this show, I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want any part of Denver Harris for OU's sake. And now today, boom, he's a UNLV rebel, which is bizarre. Kind of came out of left field. But as far as the outcome is concerned, I don't hate it for OU because what it enables you to do is kick the can down the road, see if you get some better options at the cornerback position come the spring portal cycle. It's going to put whoever you bring in a little bit behind the curve as far as learning the defense and learning the scheme. But here's a thought for you, Grayson, and this is kind of where I want to start today. I think everybody has an idea of which individual Oklahoma would like to hire as their next defensive coordinator. Whoever they hire as their next defensive coordinator, does he bring anybody with him? Can he bring anybody with him? And is that something that Brent Venables is on board with? Because historically, he himself shied away from it when he came over from Clemson. He insisted upon not taking any players that were already on the roster with Dabo Swinney. The only guy that followed him was Jaron Kanak, who basically had to beat down the door. Brent Venables didn't even let him sign in the early signing period. He just said, hey, if you want to come here, you show up on the first day of classes. And that's what Jaron Kanak did. But in the past, Venables has made it a point not to raid other programs' rosters. I guess he made an exception a few weeks ago with Kennesaw State. But
Which
outside
is strange.
outside of that, do you think this is the year that Brent Venables and Oklahoma finally say, all right, we'll embrace the villain persona a little bit? Because they're already doing things a little bit differently. They understand the heat that's on them to win football games. You see this in the very fact that they pursued Denver Harris at all. They don't pursue Denver Harris 2 years ago. Maybe they don't even pursue Denver Harris 6 months ago. But they pushed for him this time around. And until the price point got a little too rich for what they felt he was worth, they were planning on bringing Denver Harris in. So we're seeing these philosophies evolve in real time. Is it a possibility that whoever the next DC is, Brent Venables says, hey, I want you to bring, say, one cornerback and one linebacker. Pick a couple guys, bring them along. Is that part of the deal?
Not only could it be part of the deal, I think it's going to change the direction of how this program operates under Brent Venables. I've been saying this for about a month now. When your back's against the wall, your values sometimes become a little bit flexible. And you go all the way back to Michael Fasusi's recruitment. He had committed, and remember Brent Venables' rules on commits. They're not taking other visits anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Fasusi says, I'm gonna go to College Station, I'm gonna go to Austin, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Now, lo and behold, he still ends up here.
He does.
You just brought up the Denver Harris saga. When your back's against the wall in terms of your employment or certain other things, you get a little bit flexible with some of your policies. And look, we've seen Dabo Swinney do this. His program was starting to veer short of the expectation that they had set at Clemson. What's Dabo Swinney doing now? He's using the portal. He's changed. Sometimes you do have to evolve things, and it's not a bad thing. I wouldn't mind if their next defensive coordinator, he say, hey, I've got this nice little corner over here. I know you guys probably need one or two. Who cares? Sometimes you can deviate from your policies, and it's not a bad thing. And if he does, it'll only make the Sooners better.
Lost City Sooner says, we have to play dirty. We will ask for forgiveness later. Denver from Indiana chimed in and said, continuing the Denver hate. Dang, man. I'm sorry, Denver from Indiana. I'm not trying to hate, and certainly not trying to hate on all Denvers. I did not want Oklahoma to pursue Denver Harris. But I have no beef with you, Denver and Indiana. Brian in Bixby brings up another interesting conversation point that came to light today. Parker, college coaches voted to change the portal window to 10 days, January 2nd through the 12th. Will the NCAA approve the change? I mean, the NCAA basically approves everything these days, right?
Yeah.
As like anybody suggests a change, the NCAA is like, yeah, we'll do that. Great idea. Let's rock with it. So, yeah, I would think the NCAA approves the change just because the NCAA really has no teeth and lets anybody and everybody pull its strings at this point. I like that. I think that's certainly an improvement because what it does is it allows 95% of the programs across college football to get done with their season before they have to worry about the portal. The only programs that are still playing at that point are what your
final eight?
Your last 8 that are in the college football playoff picture. And at that point, you're playing for a national title. You don't really care if you get a late start on the portal. And you don't mind having to balance those responsibilities, prepping for a national title, or I'm sorry, a national semifinal, and then starting to recruit the portal. You don't mind getting a late start on that because, hey, you're the cream of the crop.
And
you're one of the last 8.
And your success will speak for itself.
Exactly. There's less of an onus on you to go make things happen in the portal because your program is already in a really, really good spot. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be among the final 8 left in the field. So, yeah, I would think that happens. A 10-day window, I like that a lot just because it condenses everything. That's going to be a busy 10 days for everybody in the industry. And certainly a busy 10 days for all the coaches that occupy those offices across the country. But I think it's for the best. I think there have been a lot of changes in college football over the last several years that have been to the detriment of the game and to the detriment of the schedules and work-life balances of all the FBS football coaches across the country, but this one's going to make life a little bit easier on them, I would say, assuming it comes to pass, because right now the portal window, in essence, is the entire month of December, Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the holiday season. You have, in general, for most teams, you're prepping for a bowl game. And then you throw the portal into the midst of all of it, and you're having to host visitors all throughout the week, and none of it is regimented, none of it is structured as it is in the offseason, such that you're only bringing in guys on visits over the weekend. No, you could be bringing in a guy on Tuesday, and then you turn around and another 2 or 3 guys are in town on Thursday, and then Friday rolls around and you got somebody else flying in. So I do not envy college football coaches in general in this landscape, but I certainly do not envy them when it comes to the month of December. That has to be a maddening month to deal with if you're a college football coach.
And look, the easy thing to do is to just make this portal free agency open after the championship games are over. Now, obviously, that's you're working with the academic calendar, which muddies this whole thing up. But here's my only issue with this, and I do like that they're moving this to January if this goes ahead and goes through. 10 days doesn't seem like enough time. At least I don't think. Free agency in the NFL, which is a lot more structured, there are guys that sign well past a month after the new league year starts. Now, I'm not saying make the portal a full 30 days, but I think 10 days seems a little bit constricting. Maybe you make it 15, maybe you make it 20.
Well, and there's some nuance there, right? Because that is the window to enter the portal. You don't necessarily have to be in and out of the portal by the end of that window.
Okay.
So you have to get in the portal between January 2nd and 12th is what it would be.
Here's my next question to you.
Okay.
Will they still have the 5-day period after your bowl game?
I would assume so.
Okay.
I mean, that's a proviso that in general you just have to make because everybody's season ends on a different timetable.
Right.
You know, a program that doesn't make a bowl game, they're done by the end of November. But for instance, Ohio State and Notre Dame, the 2 teams that are going to play for the national title next Monday, their season's wrapping up on January 20th, which is the latest a college football season has ever wrapped up. So you have to have that equalizing factor. I would imagine that will remain the same. A listener in the 918 asks, has Brent ever taken someone's offer away when they visited a school after verbally committing to OU? My understanding is he has always said that OU will then continue to recruit players at that same position. Brent Venables, when he's been asked in press conferences about these philosophies in the past, he hasn't necessarily given blanket answers. And when you look at the first 3 years of his tenure as a head coach at Oklahoma, it has kind of been a case-by-case basis as far as how those situations are handled. The very first such situation that I can recall, this goes back to May of 2022. May of 2022, yes. They had a verbal commitment from 4-star wide receiver Ashton Cozart out of Flower Mound, Texas. He decided to take a visit to Oregon. He did not tell OU he was taking a visit to Oregon. The OU staff got on the horn with him and said, you can go ahead and go to Oregon. Thus, not necessarily retracting his offer, but more or less telling him, yeah, we're going to go find somebody else for your spot. And if you like Oregon that much, just go ahead and commit to Oregon. He spent 1 year there. He has since transferred to SMU. But certainly there have been other cases. The Michael Fasusi one is a great example that you brought up previously, where Oklahoma doesn't have a ton of leverage in that situation.
No.
For so many reasons, you can't really tell a 5-star offensive tackle to kick rocks.
You can go find a lot more 4-star wide receivers than you can Michael Fasusi's.
And if you tell Ashton Cozart, hey, you can go ahead and commit to Oregon, you never have to see him again. With Michael Fasusi, you can't very well tell him, yeah, go ahead, commit to Texas. Or, yeah, go ahead, commit to Texas A&M. Because then you got to play against him for the next 3-4 years.
Yep.
So, all situations are not created equal. I know that some, and we get asked this question a lot on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. What exactly is the policy? And in general, there is a broad policy by which the staff operates, but it's never applied the exact same way. And it's certainly seen some evolution over the last few years as this staff has gotten deeper settled at Oklahoma.
To that point, Jason from Miami on the text line, he didn't change his policy. No, I didn't say he changed his policy. I said he became flexible with it, which is to your point, Parker. This is a policy that's enforced on a case-by-case basis how they see fit and to whom they have more or less leverage with.
And in the NIL era, that's kind of how you have to play it.
Exactly.
Because if Michael Fasusi wants to perpetuate the drama of the process and wants to take a few more visits before he puts pen to paper on signing day, okay, again, you kind of have to let him. But if it's some random 3-star that you can very easily go and replace, especially like midsummer when you still have half the country uncommitted in a given class, then you're going to be far less inclined to beg that kid to stay on board with you and be willing to subject yourself to his every whim as to where he's going to visit and which schools he's going to entertain before signing day. Gunny said, so the policy operates on an FAFO.
Correct.
More or less.
Very correct.
Yes, you are welcome to FA, but at some point you may FO. All right, keep filling it up on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439. Just getting started here on a Tuesday on Locked In. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton. And, of course, all of you chiming in throughout the show on the text line. Stay here. It's the home of Sooner fans, the Ref Sports Radio Network. More to come.
Hornsdown Apple Pie Liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural, 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the Yums because Spike was safe, Hornsdown Apple Pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Hornsdown celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Street, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com.
Transfer portal! It's out of control!
The Sooners aren't the only team in Norman killing it in the transfer portal. Bob Stoops,
Because you think you know your team, but you need to see it.
Dusty Dvorak,
I thought that was by design.
Brian Bosworth,
Who wants to wear burnt orange? There's nothing in the closet that goes with anything orange, burnt or otherwise.
the Ref continues to prove this is the home of Sooner fans. The Ref is SEC ready. Are you?
The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Teachers are dynamic leaders shaping a new generation. They bring a variety of perspectives from diverse backgrounds, innovating how they teach to prepare students for our fast-changing world. They're skilled experts, discovering a universe of solutions, telling stories, inspiring, mentoring, connecting cultures, leading by example. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives. Are you ready? Explore teaching at teach.org, supported by the U.S. Department of Education and 1 million teachers of color.
From the gridiron to the hardwood to the diamond, no one covers the Sooners like we do. If it's Sooner Sports, we have you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This is the home of Sooner fans.
I'm Gina Mitchell of Mitchell's Jewelry. As Oklahoma's largest diamond importer, it's our goal to choose the best and the biggest diamond for your budget. That's why we hand select our diamonds in the diamond rooms of Antwerp. If you are getting engaged, we can create the ring of her dreams. Celebrating an anniversary or birthday, we have diamonds in all shapes and sizes for rings or necklaces, plus perfectly matched pairs for earrings. Come see us today and let us create something special. Mitchell's Jewelry, 2201 West Main in Norman.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Stand Up to Cancer asked leading cancer researchers to speak about why they do their work.
2 words come to mind for me. One is responsibility, the other's purpose.
It's just so inspiring to do research that impacts human lives.
Stand Up to Cancer has been a critical partner in advancing research for cancer.
Cancer research saves lives.
So please, help us fight in this battle against cancer.
Be a part of the team that ends cancer at standuptocancer.org.
Tired of your current living situation? Now is the best time to make a move. Interest rates are dropping and Home Creations is offering the best financing around with rates as low as 3.625%. This will save you hundreds per month on your brand new Home Creations home. Live like a champion today by calling Holly at 405-364-9999 for full details.
364-9999 means Home Creations.
APR 6.508%.
It is locked in here on the ref. Parker, Thune, Grayson, Singleton. There's a lot going on today. A lot going on. Because in addition to the portal and recruiting and all of the things that usually occupy my time and brain space on these airwaves, Grayson, I'm also navigating the pre-draft interview process right now.
Ooh.
We have the annual KREF bowling party on Friday.
We do.
And I have been tabbed as one of the 4 team captains.
Yeah,
we have a draft coming up tomorrow at 3:15, and I'm doing my best to make sure that all of the candidates for early round selections are properly vetted.
All right.
Drake Dykin is here with us. Drake, you have 60 seconds to state your case as to why you are worthy of an early round selection in the KREF bowling
First important question. Connor, am I in the YouTube shot? I'm a little bit more? All right, here we go. My advice, don't draft me.
Really?
Don't draft me before 3rd, 4th round, somewhere in there. I don't know how many – I can't remember how many people are exactly in the draft as far as draftable bowlers, but my ceiling, not high. I usually will break 100, so at least you know that I can break that threshold
solid.
Typically.
I'll take that.
I will say I haven't bowled since the last bowling party last year, though, so that's not promising for me either. So it could go one of many ways.
Not a practice field warrior.
No.
I take it. Would you say you're a lunch pail type of guy?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And
what do you think you bring to an organization?
The biggest thing
culturally?
that I will bring to the organization is if Trevor LaFoon is on one of the opposing teams, I will give him the business.
Oh,
pretty
here
much
we
the
go.
entirety of the bowling party. So,
thank you, sir.
Yeah,
your
welcome.
answers will be taken into consideration,
All right,
as
thank
well
you
as
so
your
much.
overall draft pile. Will you send Tyler McComas in, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Grayson Singleton, you're up next.
Are we doing all of these just on air?
Yeah. What would you say you can bring to the table to an organization?
I think your team, Parker Thune, if you're in charge, your team's going to need a dude that can talk a lot of blank.
Okay.
I'm
with it.
I got you on that competitive edge kind of thing. So
see, there's pressure on this program this year because we won last year.
Oh, really?
Yes, we won the whole thing. I think that's why I'm a team captain this year, is because we're defending our title. And I hope that means I get the first pick in the draft. I hope so.
Generally, that's not how that works, but
I know. But in this case, I'm hoping it works in exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
How good a bowler are you?
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
I will tell you what I told T-Row yesterday.
Okay.
I am all right. I usually bowl about 2 or 3 times a year, maybe 5 on a good year, and I'll say about a 7 out of 10.
What's your high score? Your career high score?
2.
Ooh, it starts with a 2. Okay.
Yeah, like 230.
Really?
220, somewhere.
Really? Okay.
Somewhere in that range.
I'm impressed by that. Very impressed.
I usually sit in the 180 to 190 range.
Hello. Okay, we got action here. My lifetime high score is a 229.
Okay.
I think that's higher than most people. The fact that you're telling me you're continually sitting in the 180, 190 range, see, this is compelling. There's definitely going to be a case to be made for you as the number 1 overall pick, assuming I get it.
5-star gunny of Stutzman's Army. Drake's going to go Tanya Harding on Trevor.
Connor Pasby? The mic?
I love live interviews.
Now, Connor, quite frankly, I do not recall. I know what my team did. I don't believe we were on the same team last year at the bowling party. I know what my team did. I can't recall what anyone else outside of our team did. We had Pierce Leffelholtz on staff at the time.
Yes.
He was a really good bowler. He is the only other individual performer whom I can distinctly remember just dominating. How did you perform last year?
I think it was around 140.
140?
150.
Okay.
You're not going to get great play out of me.
Carter, slide to your left. Slide to your left a little bit.
Grayson was talking some crazy numbers, so I'm probably not going to get up to what Grayson.
Hey, that's okay. If I learned one thing last year, it's just all about consistency.
Yes.
Because you're going to have like 5 or probably 6 people to a team this year. And so you can't have any liabilities. You can't have anybody that's dragging you down from the bottom. You don't necessarily have to have the high score. Like I think Pierce last year blew us all out of the water on an individual basis, but our team was the most consistent.
Which,
we
by
had
the
the
way,
most competitive depth.
That was a late surprise with Pierce. He's someone, obviously, that bowled on his high school
Wasn't he on his
team.
high school bowling team?
Yes, we did not know that. Or I did not know that.
So he was sandbagging us.
Yes.
Okay. Would you consider yourself a lunch pail type of guy?
I am, yes. I'm going to bring a lot of toughness to the table.
Big time.
I'm kind of offended you didn't ask me if I was a lunch pail type of guy.
You know why I didn't ask you that.
I know exactly why you didn't ask me that.
All right, thank you, Connor. Your overall draft profile will be taken into consideration as we prepare for the draft tomorrow at 3:15. Caleb from Grove on the text line, as we get this show back on track, asks, name your top 5 DC candidates. Well, Caleb from Grove, look, there aren't 5 DC candidates right now. There's one option that everybody would love to have within that building, and then there's a fallback option, which isn't a bad one, but like it's about one guy right now. And again, it doesn't really take a whole lot of guesswork to figure who that one guy is. If they don't land that one guy, then, you know, there's a reason Wes Goodwin's name has been thrown around as commonly as it has. Wes Goodwin may end up on staff at Oklahoma one way or another. That'll be something interesting to watch because, I mean, if you think about it, with the background he has with Brent Venables, there may be opportunities elsewhere for him to coach linebackers or be a defensive coordinator, but it's been floated around that he might return to Clemson as an analyst. Why would you do that? Why would you, like, if you're going to be an analyst, you'd probably at that point much sooner go be an analyst at Oklahoma where there's upward mobility, because there is no upward mobility at Clemson anymore. You've been demoted. There's no reason whatsoever to return to that organization in an analyst capacity after serving as linebackers coach in D.C.
Yeah, the more you verbalize it, the less it makes any sense. Excuse me. When I first saw that report and I saw Clemson hopes to have him back on the staff, I'm like, as what? And how are you going to convince him to come back? Now, the other part of this conversation, you remember a couple weeks ago, Parker, we threw out Skalski as a potential linebackers coach?
Yes.
What are the odds that happens?
The odds it happens at this point, I would say, are very low.
Okay.
There was a time before this whole search really began to take its current shape that was a legitimate consideration. And the only way that would have come to fruition is if Brandon Hall had been the DC, and they would have been able to just keep it completely in-house. There was a case to be made, and a strong one, for James Skalski as linebackers coach at that point, but you don't have to rush him along. He's got another year to be a GA. He's been at Oklahoma for 2 seasons. He's commanded a lot of respect within that building for what he's added from a developmental standpoint and working with those young linebackers, and from a recruiting standpoint in helping pursue linebacker prospects that have been on campus at Oklahoma and evaluating all aspects of the program. 5-star Gunny of Stutzman Army on the text line says, Connor is my dude. If anyone tries to Tanya Harding him, we're going to have beef. Yeah, we'll make sure nobody does that to Connor. From what it seems, Trevor might be the one with a bounty on his head, or his calf, as the case may be. Old Shuck from Tahlequah says, hey, Parker, long time no listen. Day job sucks, LOL. I'm sorry to hear that, Old Shuck. We're glad to have you along for the ride. Any news on Joe John Finley? A lot of will he, won't he? And does DeMarco leave for the NFL? Does that negatively affect the running back room? Missed you guys. Well, old Chuck, with regard to Joe John Finley and DeMarco Murray, I mean, there's been no indication given to the players and or recruits that those two are moving on. Now, I will say, I have never considered it a foregone conclusion, nor do I at this point, that both of those guys are back on Oklahoma's staff in 2025. I don't know what the future holds for those two. I don't. I wish I could tell you definitively what the outcome is going to be, especially with Joe John Finley, because that's been a question that so many have asked on the text line and elsewhere for weeks and weeks now, but just don't know. I mean, here we are on January 14th, kind of running out of runway to make a change if that's what's going to happen. It doesn't feel like at this point that is what's going to happen unless something shakes out of nowhere.
What's the justification for bringing Joe John Finley back?
Continuity, I guess.
Continuity with what? Subpar results? Is that where we're going? Because
you're speaking a lot of people's language right now.
I mean,
I'm gonna just let you cook.
His room was arguably, by the way, his room was barely even touched. The depth pieces were, but his room was barely even touched by injury. So it's not like he has that to fall back on.
Yeah,
his room was just awful.
No, you're right. I mean,
and he definitely wasn't good enough as a play caller to warrant him coming back. And that's been the most confusing part of the offseason for me. How is he still, and I hate calling for people's jobs, we all do in this industry, but how is he still here?
You're asking the same question that many have asked as we've gotten deeper and deeper into the offseason, and we're now, 3 weeks removed, close to 3 weeks removed from Oklahoma playing their last football game of the 2024 season. And look, I think for better or worse, it seems that Oklahoma's going to ride it out with Joe John Finley until I think it's becoming apparent that they're not going to part ways with Joe John Finley. You know, if he takes another job, then okay. You go hire someone else. But doesn't seem like from everything that Brent Venables has said, from everything that Ben Arbuckle has said, that they're just going to outright get rid of Joe John Finley. And so I assume that rationale for that is, hey, like this is a program guy that wore the uniform. He cares.
Oh, we're doing this again.
Yes. Well, and look, I'm not saying it is a justification that anybody will or should be satisfied with, but that's how I see it at this point. He'll be going on year 5 as Oklahoma's tight ends coach, and maybe there's a sense that, okay, if you take all of the chaos that transpired throughout the 2024 season and forced him to take on a larger role as the play caller, if you just take that all out of the picture and he can just focus on coaching tight ends and getting the most out of these guys, then maybe you see some improvement. Because I will say this, it's been a couple years, but Joe John Finley did some fantastic work with Braden Willis.
Yes.
Braden Willis was a guy that was just kind of there on the depth chart for Oklahoma for several seasons. And then as a fifth-year senior in 2022, he finally becomes the guy at that position and explodes. He was probably Oklahoma's best offensive player that year, short of Eric Gray. And he winds up hearing his name called in the NFL draft. He's on the San Francisco 49ers roster right now. So I get that everybody takes issue with the recruiting component of things. And listen, I'm not going to try to talk you off that ledge if that's where you're at, but I will say this. The Braden Willis case study gives Joe John Finley something to hold up on his resume. And I think the hope would be, certainly just like everybody else in 2025, Joe John Finley's coaching for his job. I think the hope would be you have Devon Mitchell. He has had a year to get everything sorted out, to get his focus honed in, and to get acquainted with what it takes to be a great college football player. Turn Devon Mitchell into something. Turn him into a cornerstone for this offense in 2025. If you can do that, you buy yourself job security, assuming Oklahoma wins football games in 2025.
And the whole staff isn't replaced.
Yeah, but if not, then I think it becomes apparent after the 2025 season what direction you need to go. in many ways, Joe John Finley's circumstance is a microcosm of the entire staff as a whole, which is that there is reason to believe that you get more out of his particular unit in 2025 than you have the last couple of years because of the presence of Devon Mitchell most specifically. If you do, great. It kind of salves the sting of the wound a little bit. But if not, then again, you're probably at the point where you need to clean house and start fresh.
And essentially what you're saying is that however bad the tight end room was last year, it was not bad enough.
Evidently, no.
Because when you see a coach on the hot, what's the number one sign that a coach is on the hot seat going into the next year? People start picking off his staff in terms of firing them.
Mm-hmm.
They start firing staff. Now, you made an offensive coordinator change. Duh. Glad you did that. But you really didn't change much else. Bill Bedenbaugh sticking around. Emmett Jones sticking around. DeMarco Murray, for as far as we know, sticking around. Now, that could change because the NFL coaching cycle is a little bit behind the college football one, so TBD on that one. But it is interesting that nobody on the position, in terms of position coaching, except for Seth Luttrell, was shown the door.
Mm-hmm.
I do find that interesting given the backdrop of all of this.
And I think what that tells you is that regardless of how you see it and I see it and all of you listening see it, the perspective from within the administrative offices at Oklahoma was that, A, Seth Luttrell was not cut out to be Oklahoma's OC. We all saw that. I mean, that was glaringly apparent. But B, injuries were the primary reason why everything else suffered the way it did. It was a combination of injuries and Seth Luttrell was just in over his head. That's how people in the administrative offices see it. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. What I'm saying is if there was anybody else that needed to be held accountable in terms of losing their jobs, they would have lost it by now, at least in the minds of the people who make those decisions.
And I can agree with that. The only thing I would add to that is I don't think his room was good enough. He even showed flashes of being good enough or competent enough.
I'm somewhere in the middle on that. I agree with certain components, but I also think Bauer Sharp was used in a lot of ways that Bauer Sharp just shouldn't have been used. And Joe John Finley himself is kind of culpable in that because he was calling the plays for the last 5 games of the season.
I was about to say, I think it was him that called that pass against LSU.
Yes. Objectively, that should not have – like there were many things all season, not necessarily limited to that LSU game, but there were many things all season that Bauer Sharp was asked to do that you just shouldn't be asking a tight end to do.
Blocking Kyle Kennard.
Exactly. You should just let a tight end do what a tight end does. And certainly a guy like Bauer Sharp, you should just let him do what a guy like Bauer Sharp does. And there just wasn't really an urgency, it didn't seem, from OU to just treat the tight end like a normal tight end. And so I don't know what to make of that, but here we go into 2025. And if Joe John Finley is back, which at this point there's no tangible reason to think otherwise, then it's a prove-it year for him because of Devon Mitchell's presence. Quite frankly, I think it's a different conversation if Devon Mitchell isn't on the roster. If Devon Mitchell isn't on the roster, maybe the view from the top is, well, there's not really much of a reason to think that you're going to get much out of this tight end group. We should just move on and hire a new tight ends coach. But because you have a former 5-star prospect in Devon Mitchell that was considered one of the top 15 players in the nation before he reclassed up to 2024, that alone, I think, has heightened the job security for Joe John Finley.
So is that you saying that you're thinking less and less of the production that Caden Helms is capable of giving you?
I think Caden Helms and Cade McIntyre both. And I don't know what to think of Will Huggins and Carson Kent because I'm not sure what you're going to get out of those two. It's always tough to project because, with Bauer Sharp, for instance, athletically he looked amazing. Everybody that went to practice repeatedly said, oh, this dude will be the best tight end Oklahoma's had in a minute just based on the way that he looks on the practice field. And then that turned out to be a flop. And so it's tough to project with Kent and with Huggins. I really think Helms and McIntyre are capable of giving you something, but we haven't seen it yet. It'd be great if they made that jump from a production standpoint, but can you bank on what you haven't yet seen? That's kind of the way that I look at it. Okay. Keep filling it up on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439. We're overdue for a timeout. We'll hit one here and come back and wrap up here on this Tuesday installment of Locked In. Keep it here on the Ref.
Hornsdown apple pie liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural, 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the Yums because Spike was safe, Hornsdown apple pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Hornsdown celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Streak, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com.
That's living life anchors up.
It's the transfer portal. It's out of control.
The Sooners aren't the only team in Norman killing it in the transfer portal. Bob Stoops.
Because you think you know your team, but you need to see it.
Dusty Dvorak.
I thought that was by design.
Brian Bosworth.
Who wants to wear burnt orange? There's nothing in the closet that goes with anything orange, burnt or otherwise.
The Ref continues to prove this is the home of Sooner fans. The Ref is SEC ready. Are you?
The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Teachers are dynamic leaders shaping a new generation. They bring a variety of perspectives from diverse backgrounds, innovating how they teach to prepare students for our fast-changing world. They're skilled experts, discovering a universe of solutions, telling stories, inspiring, mentoring, connecting cultures, leading by example. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives. Are you ready? Explore teaching at teach.org, supported by the U.S. Department of Education and 1 million teachers of color.
From the gridiron to the hardwood to the diamond, no one covers the Sooners like we do. If it's Sooner Sports, we have you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This is the home of Sooner fans.
I'm Gina Mitchell of Mitchell's Jewelry. As Oklahoma's largest diamond importer, it's our goal to choose the best and the biggest diamond for your budget. That's why we hand select our diamonds in the diamond rooms of Antwerp. If you are getting engaged, we can create the ring of her dreams. Celebrating an anniversary or birthday, we have diamonds in all shapes and sizes for rings or necklaces, plus perfectly matched pairs for earrings. Come see us today and let us create something special. Mitchell's Jewelry, 2201 West Main in Norman.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Stand Up to Cancer asked leading cancer researchers to speak about why they do their work.
2 words come to mind for me. One is responsibility, the other is purpose.
It's just so inspiring to do research that impacts human lives.
Stand Up to Cancer has been a critical partner in advancing research for cancer.
Cancer research saves lives.
So please, help us fight in this battle against cancer.
Be a part of the team that ends cancer at standuptocancer.org.
Tired of your current living situation? Now is the best time to make a move. Interest rates are dropping and Home Creations is offering the best financing around with rates as low as 3.625%. This will save you hundreds per month on your brand new Home Creations home. Live like a champion today by calling Holly at 405-364-9999 for full details.
364-9999 means Home Creations.
APR 6.508%.
In advance of the KREF bowling party on Friday nights, I have completed pre-draft interviews with Grayson Singleton, Connor Pasby, and Drake Dykin. Starting to build out the big board in advance of tomorrow's draft. This is Locked In here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thin alongside Grayson Singleton. Got one segment left. Then I'm going to go home, start making calls. Wheeling and dealing.
Yeah, check our references.
See if we can swap some picks in advance of the draft tomorrow. Put on my best Sam Presti, if you will. That's the plan. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, always available to all of you listening from wherever you may be listening at 405-651-3439. So let's turn to, actually, you know what, by the way, now that we can more or less tie a bow on the portal cycle, and certainly the 2025 recruiting cycle with Oklahoma and their 18 signees all locked in and on board, the majority of whom are now enrolled and arrived to campus this past weekend, Grayson. And you know what, I can give you my answers. I don't want to necessarily put you on the spot with no notice here, but I would love to know the guy that you're most interested to see from the 2025 recruiting cycle in terms of what they can add to the bottom line, the final product for Oklahoma in 2025, and then one guy that you're most excited to see from the 2025 portal class. I'm going to take the obvious answers off the board because Michael Fasusi, John Mateer, like those are the two highest regarded guys in each of those classes respectively. But as I look at the 2025 recruiting class, and this is not going to surprise anybody because I've talked about him a lot, it's going to be really, really tough to deny Manny Choice some rotational snaps at the very least in that wide receiver room because he is just so athletically gifted and has a rare skill set. And I think there's certainly going to be day one potential for Elijah Thomas as well, Oklahoma's other receiver signee in that 2025 cycle. At one point, they had 5 wide receivers committed. They had Choice, they had Thomas, they had Grayson Harris, Marcus Harris, and then Cortez Mills. They wound up only signing 2, but I think they signed the best 2.
Yes.
And Choice in particular is a guy that I am very, very excited to see. What can he add to Oklahoma as a true freshman? I'm not exactly sure because so much of it is contingent upon whether any of these transfer wide receivers really hit. But Manny Choice, for me, is a dude that provides the most intrigue specifically for 2025. What say you?
I'm going to go with Elijah Thomas.
Okay.
On that one.
Sticking with the wideouts?
Yeah, just because I don't know what the defenders are going to do, I feel like the defense is so loaded, even at safety, because Cortland Guillory popped up in my head. But that's a loaded safety room.
He's going to play corner, too, as well.
So he's moving to corner, which they're also kind of loaded on, too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much they're going to get, how much on defense you're going to get a whole lot from the 2025 class. But whenever I watched a lot of Elijah Thomas tape at Chakota, man, that dude is big and he's silky. I mean, the way he moves and runs and weaves, that looks like a guy that can, framework-wise, looks like a dude that can make an impact in college football his freshman year. And I knew you could say the same thing about Manny Choice.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it yesterday, you said it just now. But, man, I really like what I saw from Elijah Thomas at Chakota this year.
What about the portal class? I'll give you first dibs on that one.
Okay, Derek Simmons, I think, is going to be the most consequential. If he can provide stability at that right tackle spot and you get a healthy Jacob Sexton at left tackle, now you're cooking with fish grease when it comes to Oklahoma's offense being on the resurrection track. You can get a new play caller, you can get a new quarterback all you want, but if your offensive line is a turnstile, you're hustling backwards. But if Derek Simmons, who has all those pass blocking snaps and hasn't given up a bunch of sacks at Western Carolina, can translate that to the SEC, I think you're in a really, really good spot, and maybe a better spot than some people are going to give you credit for.
I've never heard that one, cooking with fish grease. I've heard cooking with gas. I've heard cooking with peanut oil. Shout out to Phil Robertson. Never heard cooking with fish grease. Look at that. We're expanding your vernacular on a daily basis here on Locked In.
I'm going to give credit to ESPN's Mark Jones for that one.
Oh, really?
That is a very common saying of his.
Yukon Bob says, Parker, interview my wife for your bowling team. Before her illness, she carried a 208 average for over 10 years. Holy smokes. He also said, by the way, she is cancer-free. Thanks for your prayers. Of course, Yukon Bob. That's great to hear. Congratulations to you and your wife. Beating cancer, that's huge. If she's free on Friday night, I'll take her into consideration as a draft pick because, again, I'm the one with the pressure on me. I got to defend the title from last year. So want to try to get the band back together. I have in mind a couple of cornerstone contributors from last year's program that are going to be hopefully rejoining the squad.
Who was your team last year?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Was there? So my wife was definitely on my team. I'm pretty sure it was just me and my wife and Mark and his wife and then Travis Davidson.
Okay.
Was it just us 5? It might have been just that group of 5. But we got a bigger group this year. I think we're going to have 6, maybe even 7 to a team. So going to be rolling a little deeper. We're ready for it, though. Ready for it. I plan to get to the lanes the next couple of days and get some practice. What do you even call them? Not practice rounds in. Practice frames?
I think that's the correct answer.
Practice frames? Yeah. See, I just bowl.
I would do the same.
I don't know any of the lingo. I don't even really know any of the technique. I took a lot of flack for it, actually, in the summer because I mentioned that the ball I roll is, I think the one I was using at the time was like a 12-pound bowling ball, and everybody was like, that's so light, because apparently standard is like 14 to 16 pounds, which, again, I did not know. I had no frame of reference for any of this. I just started bowling on a pretty consistent basis with whatever balls were available at the bowling alley and started consistently bowling in the 200s. So the way I see it, you know what? If it works, I'm not going to mess with it.
Yeah, no. I would do the same. I am booked every night until Friday.
Really?
I've got a wrestling duel to call tonight. I've got a show to do on Wednesday, and then I've got plans on Thursday.
You're calling a wrestling duel?
I am calling a wrestling duel.
That's interesting. How do you do that?
It has taken a lot of prep work because I don't have a wrestling background, but it should be fun. I know the rules.
Have you done it before?
Yes.
Okay.
Except I haven't done it on streaming, which I think streaming is going to be a lot easier than doing it on radio, which I did when I was working in Stillwater. This would have been my junior year of college.
Okay, see, I have no background in wrestling either. I did, when I was back in college, I worked a wrestling broadcast, only one, for Sooner Vision. And mad props to Chad McKee because he was the one calling it. It was him and Jack Spates on color. I was just sitting there the whole time, and I think I might have been running the Fox box. I had no idea what was going on. Absolutely no clue. Chad knew it all. So I was just rolling with whatever Chad said because he was on top of it. If I had not had Chad's pristine play-by-play, I would have had absolutely no clue what to do throughout the entirety of that broadcast. Wrestling's tough, man.
It is.
It's tough to grasp.
Especially when you had, if you're like me, I had very minimal idea the sport existed until college. Everybody's like, let's go to a wrestling match. Why? I guess it's really, really big here in Oklahoma, as I've come to find out in my 5 years living here.
Les in Hayes, Kansas asks, how could you bowl a 200-plus game with a 12-pound ball? That's amazing, actually. Listen, I don't know, Les. I don't really know. Technique, finesse sports have always come pretty naturally to me. So it didn't take – it took me like a week of maybe 2 weeks of bowling consistently to get to the point where I was in like the 170, 180 range, and then another 2 weeks, and I was sitting north of 200.
Are you a lefty?
Yes.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Really?
Okay, so my brother's a lefty. My brother's a lefty and my dad's a lefty.
Okay.
The way that they can, like, spin bowling balls, I'm going to specify there.
Thank you.
The way because lefties, I guess, just do it naturally.
Yeah.
Just like throwing a baseball, kind of.
Exactly. Fastball always had a natural tail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Glenn from Nashville says, you got sidetracked and Parker didn't give his biggest transfer portal impact player. Great point, Glenn. Marvin Jones. I think it's going to be Marvin Jones.
Ooh, okay.
I'm counting on a career year from Marvin Jones just because I think he's in a situation now where he has the potential to really flourish, and I'm not sure that existed for him at Georgia and at Florida State previously. So I'm counting on Marvin Jones having a big, big year, especially being opposite R. Mason Thomas, a guy that's going to command a lot of attention in his own right. But, yeah, to answer your question, Les, he followed up and he said 15 to 16-pound ball gives you more pin action. I tried a bunch of different bowling balls. The one I settled on, I think it was a 12-pounder. I just liked the way it reacted with the pins. When I rolled a heavier ball, I didn't get the same, if you want to call it pin action, I guess. The pins didn't fall the way that I wanted them to. They didn't interact with one another upon impact the way that I wanted them to. So, again, can't really explain it. That's just how I roll. That's how I'll be rolling on Friday night. All right. That's it for this installment of Locked In. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place on the Ref Sports Radio Network. Don't go anywhere because the rush is coming up. Tyler and Teddy take over next. Keep it here.
Football. You love it. We love it. You live it. We live it. You need it. We got it. Nobody covers college football better